I'm Madelyn Blair. On today's show, we'll be talking about your core, the first and last source of your balance, with Dr. Kelly Cresap. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Madelyn Blair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about unlocking the resilient leader in you. 25 years ago, I sat in a wheelchair. I determined that if I was ever able to get back on my feet, I would do anything to stay that way. From the moment I was able to walk again, I began doing Pilates. I did it with an individual instructor every week, every year, for 24 years. I mention this because one of the many things you learn from the exercises of Joseph Pilates is that you must strengthen your core. Pilates understood that all the strength and flexibility in your body means nothing unless it is supported by the muscles that surround the lower trunk of your body. To call them your stomach muscles, it's a misnomer. There are many more that wrap around your middle, and when they are strong and know how to work together, it is amazing what the body is able to do. Every lesson began with warming up the body and using those muscles in the core. When I began, I could barely do the simplest exercise. Years later, I ceased thinking about the core. It was just there all the time to balance, to support, to comfort the moves that were being called for. Today, we're going to be talking about our core, or maybe I should say cores. I don't know. But anyway, in a new way, in a way that will make you more resilient. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Hundreds, Smith Island cakes have been a symbol of family, faith, and community. In 2009, the Smith Island Baking Company was created as the custodian of this treasure, shipping hundreds of thousands of cakes made from scratch, packed with care, and delivered to celebrations of all sizes and shapes, far and wide. Today, people just like you celebrate important occasions with a cake. When is your next birthday? Welcome back. You're listening to Unlocked, and we've been talking about our core. So let me introduce today's guest. Dr. Kelly Cresap is an author, storyteller, vocal coach. I think I need some vocal coaching. Learning designer, LGBTQ activist, and former NPR commentator. He has led workshops on storytelling, archetypes, self-mentoring, vocal coaching, and humor at venues such as NASA Goddard, the Pentagon, the Whitman Walker Clinic, the Smithsonian, and the National Speakers Association. I'm going to bring Kelly onto the screen.
Hi, Madelyn.
Hello, Kelly. I'm so happy you're here.
Good to see you.
Well, in addition, Kelly and I were founders of the storytelling group in Washington, D.C. called Golden Fleece. It was begun in 2000. And even though I have known him for years, I did not know that you do basic trapeze. So I want to know when you're going to join the circus, Kelly.
Thanks for the invitation.
Well, speaking of core, I talked about the core that Pilates works. I'd like to have you talk a bit about the core that you're working on.
Thank you so much. The word is so resonant for me, and it's okay for me if somebody sees it only in a physiological way. There are worse things to do than strengthen your core if it is only a physiological thing. So gym trainers will talk about cortisol and oxytocin and muscle groups, posture, mobility, stability. These are all really wonderful things to do. and I want to promote that as well. To me, though, the term core is even more relevant than that, because if you expand it to think of how that relates to not just your body, but also your psyche. What are your core strengths, your core values? What is the psyche truth about you? That's something that I want to expand from simply a physiological to also a psychological idea. The French have the term core, Coeur. We know the term sacre core, sacred heart. So there's a notion of heart there that gets into the realm of feelings. And I want to say to strengthen the core involves the heart to me also. And I would say, think of the term courage as related to core, courage, literally, and a way of expanding and increasing your sense of courage in the world. I do think that sense of courage or core strength is in extreme need today. And I want to start with a sense of how to do that physiologically, but also add this layer of psychology. And we're going to introduce archetypes after a bit.
Oh, that's a fabulous understand. Gives me a fabulous understanding of what you mean. And I love the fact that you went right back to the root of the word, the core, the heart, the courage. Uh, it, I love to see where words come from. It always expands my understanding. Well, how can someone really stay vigilant about their core and, actually redirect when they lose track of it?
Over the course of a single day, I usually have to remind myself every so often. It really is an encouraging thing because I do work a lot at a desk. Every so often, I get a reminder of, oh, I need to strengthen my core or just do something that gets me up out of my chair and doing something more physically active. And what I'm going to introduce can happen in as little as a minute or maybe 90 seconds. So, the idea of the squat, which has been described as the king of all exercises, no equipment needed. You can simply get up from your desk. If you have a room, perhaps you have a room in your office where there's privacy, but standing squat is a really great thing to do. So holding your torso straight, pushing your hips back, bending your knees, descending, and returning to standing is an excellent way to strengthen your legs, your glutes, and your core. That takes no more than 10 seconds per squat, and it's an excellent exercise.
Kelly, Kelly, I want to interrupt you for just a sec because there are a lot of people who really can't bend their knees. Is it still effective if you just do a partial?
Partial is yes. Go ahead, and I want to do connect with a doctor if you have concern about anything that I'm talking today. Make sure that it's good for you. Connect with either a doctor or your trainer to make sure that this is right for you. There's no points for doing he-man machismo. I've got to do this even if I hate it. No, I think this should add joy to a day and also mobilize physiological strength. And so a partial squat is going to be just fine. So as far as you need to take it, I do find that it's a really wonderful way to add to my sense of groundedness and balance physiologically and, as I will say, psychologically as well. I do squats with my hands stretched out for added balance, but you can do it in other ways as well. I do promote checking out demonstrations of a squat on YouTube. There's pretty simple explanations there that you can also go back to as a reminder. Now, that's something that I do to specifically to promote balance in my body, which is especially good for people over 50 to remind themselves, okay, this is something that I need to really think about. The other thing that I do past that, again, with a 1 minute time limit, I'm going to stir that energy around and test the balance that I've just strengthened. So what I do is just a form of dance. And I'm not going to model that today, but I'm going to say, swirl your body around, get your arms and limbs active and raised up and around, get your middle torso going like a washing machine. And if it looks like dance, great. If it looks just like a kind of animated movement, great. It's really going to help. And you notice as you're doing this, it's not a performance for anybody else. It's a way of noticing what's happening inside yourself, raising your body energy, and again, adding and testing the strength and balance that you have inside yourself. Takes no more than a minute and can happen as many times during a day as you want it to.
I love this one, Kelly. I I know it's going to be a little embarrassing, but I think when I'm waiting in line somewhere, like at the grocery store, that's a great time to just sort of, even if I don't go down with bounce, with squats or anything, but to just move back and forth like this is just, I like that. I
You
mean,
can do it actually in a very limited sort of way. You can do it in a uh, on an airplane in a seat. You can just kind
yes.
of move your torso. You can bring your heels up so you're getting a little bit of exercise in your feet. So moving your body around in some way, and the grocery line is another place. Again, setting the bar and the comfort level for you, but
Yeah.
noticing that okay, I'm not doing anything except for standing here, but I could do something active with my body and lean into that.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Well, it's a new challenge for me. It challenges not to do it, but to do it in public.
Okay,
And
okay.
there's something about uh, seeing someone in public do something that's perfectly healthy and perfectly safe, and it doesn't offend anybody. It's just funny because it's different, and it might inspire them. I don't know. I'm going
You
to try.
know, thank you. You reminded me just a month or so ago, I was waiting in an airport in a very stressful moment. And I was noticing the stress in my body as I was waiting for word about a flight that I was either going to be included on or not. And I decided, well, this is a public place, but it's not illegal to do squats in public. And I decided to do it. It really helped. And I did have to let go of the notion of, okay, this is not a performance. People might look at me a certain way, and I just have to give myself permission. It really did help.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, you mentioned something now that we're often afraid, and you know, is we've been talking about the core because now we have a sense of the core, and what we want to do is use it. And this aspect of overcoming fear, is it? Can you talk about that for healthy outlets for fear and even anger? Because right now I sense a lot of anger in this country.
That's the thing is to wake up in a given day these days. You think of the many ways that you might access fear and anger over the course of a day. And if I don't have a plan to respond and to find my grounded self and to rebalance within myself, then I become part of the message of fear and anger that's going out to the world, not in a way that's helping at all.
Mm,
And so noticing anger and fear, they're actually energy and they can be seen as gifts. To be feeling anger or fear is to not feel numb, right? And so I'm reminded, okay, this is energy in my body and I can do something with it if I choose to. And the way that I see it is to, in connection to the core, is to imagine what is the character that needs to come out of me right now? What is and we will talk in a moment about archetypes, but there's a part of me that needs to find a dynamic expression for this. And I need to give an outward manifestation of this so that I can then continue in my day and not be controlled by this unprocessed fear or anger. And that's something that I really love to share today. I don't always get it right. I want to say a few months ago, I was at Glenstone Museum, the indoor outdoor museum, and I this is me in my happy place, going from one place to the other, just loving the experience of this free outdoor museum. However, that morning I had seen a headline that triggered me. I didn't do the exercises that I just described. the standing squat and the dance. And all day, I was just kind of remembering that headline, and it took me back into this frustrated place of irritation. And what that
Mm.
was unprocessed anger that I was allowing to just sort of take over my day willy nilly over the course of the day. What I would want to do instead would be to spend a few minutes in the morning really feeling the brunt of that headline and getting into my body with a demonstrated outward force of anger. And this is how I would do it through standing squats and dance.
Mm.
My favorite, one of my favorite recent additions to the dance character mode is the Tasmanian Devil. And I'm not talking about the Australian marsupial, but the Looney Tunes character. It doesn't have to be a vocal uh, approximation of the sounds, but it's kind of guttural. You know, if you've ever seen the Tasmanian Devil, it's just this unleashed id of a character, and he's spinning around and letting his anger out. And that's a way for me to tap into that in a way that's acknowledging the anger and doing something productive with it. We can also talk about other metaphors for anger. The wild man is one that I'm familiar with, or wild woman is another way of seeing this ancient energy in the body that needs to find an outlet. Or you can go through the day just feeling like irritated and ready to punch somebody out. So, healthy versus unhealthy use of anger. Uh, And I spoke in my last program with you about the haka, the
Yes.
Maori ceremonial dance that's very physically demonstrative, stamping the feet and chanting. It's a ceremonial thing. I don't want to just simply say, do your haka, but you can see examples of it online and find your own way into a very demonstrative form of dance that'll get you into your body and really tapping into your anger.
Oh, I love the example of Haka. By the way, that's Haka, Haka. And yes, there are lots of videos on those. What I love about them is that they is such a full expression. And I know it was done originally to put fear in the eyes of their enemies. And yet, you're right. It allowed each of their individual bodies to release all of that, so that their body was then free to fight or free to whatever they had to do. Yeah.
That's right. It's a full body, head, heart, gut. You have to be involved. All your limbs, everything is engaged, including your voice. It's a full body experience. And it translates for me to the archetypes. And this is a way of grounding yourself in something that includes head, heart, gut, and the ability to coordinate them. And I want to go into that. One definition of archetypes recently from David Hutchins is useful deep story patterns that are encoded in our unconscious minds.
Say
Now,
that again. Say that again. Deep.
deep story patterns that are encoded in our unconscious minds.
Okay, you have to describe that.
Okay, so this is quoting from David Hutchins's Circle of the Nine Muses book. So, and he goes into a system of 16 archetypes. These are like characters that are hardwired in the human psyche. So
Hmm.
they're in there as potential energy sources at all times, but at a certain point you may be inattentive to a certain one. And so this is something that you can bring up in terms of awareness. Carol Pearson has influenced my thinking about this. She has a system of 6 archetypes, and you can look up her research. David Hutchins's is 16 archetypes. The system that I prefer, or that I use in this specific capacity of core strengthening, is a 4 archetype system influenced by the book by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Now, because those are male terms, or at least two of them are, I translate that to a gender-friendly approximation, which is sovereign instead of king and artist instead of lover. So I say sovereign, warrior, magician, artist. And that for me is a way of tapping into head with the magician, heart with the lover, gut with the warrior, and the sovereign is, I want to say, as a shorthand, the ability to coordinate the other three.
Yeah.
So think of the orchestra conductor who's saying less brass and more woodwinds now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, because this is talking about physiology, I want to talk about a specific shorthand to tap into all four of those basic archetypes. To tap into the lover, if you're feeling like I need to really connect with a lover or the term artist, the heart is just to place your hand on your heart in a gentle way that invites you to notice, what am I feeling right now? So hand on the heart. If you're doing mental work and you want to tap into the magician archetype, if you've done Reiki work or energy healing, it's simply a matter of placing your hands. Well, this is usually to somebody else, but if you can do it to yourself, place your hands close enough that you can feel the heat emanating from your own scalp
Mm.
without necessarily touching it, while meditating on what is the intelligence that I have and can tap into right now. What are the ideas that are waiting to come out of me that wouldn't arrive any other way but through me? So giving credit to your own intelligence. Now, the warrior is more physically active, and it's if you're doing it in a paired exercise, it's a football scrimmage with somebody where you're placing your hands on someone's shoulders and they're placing their hands on your shoulders, and you're simply pressing against each other so that you can feel your gut kicking in, and your
Mm.
gut starts to say, hey, I'm here, and hear me roar, right? And you may make a noise with this if you want. The idea is not to compete with the other person, but to really press as hard as he is or she is on your shoulders in such a way that you both feel your gut kicking in. Now, how do you do that by yourself? You can do that by just simply pressing your hands against a door frame, let's say, or a wall. Again, only so far as you feel your gut kicking in and saying, "Hey, I'm down here. Don't forget me."
This is interesting, Kelly, because I unfortunately am in the studio, so I can't leave the camera area. And I'm pressing against the table that's in front of me. And as soon as I did that, my gut just went, okay, hold on. So here I am sitting in a chair, and it's actually activated.
I've never done that before, but you've got me thinking of how to do that too. Because again, that could be something if you're in a long airplane flight and you
Yes.
just say, where is my warrior energy gone? And I'm just losing it. And I need to just press against the something solid in front of me,
Yeah.
being respectful of the passenger in front of me, right? But still just really noticing, where is my gut and how do I re-access that?
Yeah.
So that's three of the four archetypes that I just described. The sovereign is one that I've been adding more and more, and it's very touching sometimes. But what I'll ask somebody to do is to simply place their hand on my forehead in a blessing way. There are no words that are needed, and I'm going to just, it's like they're sitting across from me knee to knee, and or maybe we're standing, but they're just placing their hand on my forehead. If it's somebody that I know quite well, and if I'm attuned to this exercise, sometimes it almost brings tears immediately,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a relaxation in my being, and I drop into my body and I feel some sense of blessing coming from this person, but beyond them, from other energy sources. It's a very touching thing. And I have been very grateful for this chance. I was on a cruise one morning and I just said to my friend, we have a busy day. We're doing all kinds of things, but I would just really like to ground myself this morning. Would you mind placing your hand on my forehead with no words? And that was a very touching thing, just almost like a prayer or a sort of a sacred vigil. It really helps. And
You
I'm
know,
great.
I am excited about that because I can see that as a vehicle for mothers, well, fathers too, as their child is about ready to go to school, to just a simple movement like that tells the child, I'm here and I'm supporting you. And oh, that now that gives me chills
Thank you
because
so much. It's very emotionally resonant for me. Obviously, any of these four exercises could just be done as a physiological thing, tell me what to do physically, but there's a psychological component.
yeah,
And if you can really step into where is the sovereign inside of this person and how do I access it inside of myself, or the warrior or the magician, those are characters that are just dying to come out of you, and you can bless as you start your day or finish it, or as an additive in the middle of the day.
Kelly, as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, the sovereign is almost like the name of that now you'll just correct me if I'm wrong. The name of that could even be relationship, because you can't be a sovereign alone. What are you a sovereign of? This is, I'm just excited about this word relationship and sovereign.
I love that idea. So I don't always have somebody else to do this with.
Yeah, yeah,
And again, the relationship you have with that person is going to also have an effect
yeah.
on how the exercise happens. You could do it with a stranger. It's not going to have the same effect because of their lack of knowledge of you. Still, it might do the desired effect.
Mm,
Uh, I will say that if you are solo, it is also possible to just place your hand on your forehead and just remember, okay, I am enough in this moment.
yeah,
I am blessing myself and I'm accessing the sovereign part of me that can make executive decisions,
yeah.
that can call the shots, and that can be calm in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
Um, that line that I heard from your interview recently with Mary Alice Arthur, she said, "How do you remain human in the midst of chaos?" And these four ways of grounding in the body to me answer that, is to I am restoring my own humanity in the act of physically and psychologically girding myself with these four archetypes: head, heart, gut, and the ability to coordinate them.
Mm. Oh, that gives me a beautiful sense of what we're doing here. It's not just it's not just making us better. It's restoring my own humanity. That's a
Yes.
wonderful way to say it.
Yes. I want to give another example. This happened when I was teaching, and I had a student in the front row of my classroom who was using his cell phone in a disruptive way. And I have this on my syllabus, so it's clear from the get-go. Maybe he missed the first day of class or whatever, but it seemed like he was doing this in an insolent way. And it was the front row of the classroom. So everyone kind of has to be aware of his energy as he's devoting all his energy to his cell phone. And I thought, well, maybe he has some relative in an emergency situation or whatever. I was still getting triggered by it.
Uh,
What I did, I felt the trigger, and I ended up taking the break that evening and going to my office where I have all to myself, and I just ripped on a new. What I did was I started doing vigorous dance and let rip with uh, noise and movement, and I just let out the anger in an unedited sort of way. I really tapped into it, so that when I would go back to the classroom, I wasn't going to tear a new one for the guy who was using his cell phone. So I rebalanced inside myself. I I found the way of letting it out in a way that's not edited. When I did go back to the classroom, after I started class, I just said in a very simple way, but a very authoritative, not a bullying, but an authoritative way, I need you to turn your cell phone over. I forget the words I used, but the other students in the class, there was a kind of a, oh, okay, that was new. And it wasn't bullying, but it was definitely authoritative.
Yeah.
And it really helped to let out the anger offline and then to come back and actually do something about it.
Yeah. As you're saying this, I'm realizing as a manager, there are many times when you could get angry at your staff because they didn't do it right or they were late or whatever. If you can remove the emotion, you can handle all kinds of situations with your staff because they pick up on that. They know that there's no emotion behind it. This is just what you're saying. So that's a great example. Thank you for that.
That's great. Yes, it's like it's energetically grounded. This is a person who is tapping into feelings,
Yeah,
but they're not using them as weapons.
correct. Yeah.
And even just when I am angry with somebody, the most that I will usually say to them directly is, "Oh, I was triggered by that comment you said yesterday, and I'm doing something about it, and I would like to say this about that." But I'm not just gonna, go into some intense, unprocessed anger and just
Mhm.
let rip with them.
Yep. Yep.
I think that's really helpful as a way of emotional care for yourself and for others, to be aware of the damage you might do, to let it out. It is a gift. Every feeling is a gift. It's a way of not being numb,
Mhm.
and notice what energy it might take to express this. Over the course of a day, I'll be at my computer trying to find some description of something, and I'll just notice there's some combination of feelings sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
And it'll be anger with a little fear. And then I'll just say, okay, this needs a moment of my time to get up. What's the outward expression, the physical dynamic expression of this feeling? What would it look like? Probably not like anything I've done before, and maybe something, but it's again not a performance. It's a way of expressing and tapping into that feeling. And I've sometimes gotten over writer's block this way. I'll get stuck on a passage, I'll get stuck on an idea, I'll need to just get out of myself. And when I've found physical form for it, it's a way of, okay, my body is like doing an end run around my brain, which gets stuck sometimes.
Fabulous. I love that, especially the writer's block aspect, because I know you do a lot of writing and I do a lot of writing. And those are moments when anything that will get you through that block is helpful.
Indeed. And sometimes it's a trigger that the world sends to you. Lately, I'm getting a lot of ads that come down through streaming services, and I can't do anything about it. Well, wait, though. I don't like that word can't. So, what I do is I take my headphones off, and the ad is literally going to last 90 seconds. I think, what could I do productively with that 90 seconds? I'm already feeling irritation and anger about the ad itself, so that's an extra plus, right? Instead of just sitting there stewing and feeling alienated, I can get up and say, I have 90 seconds to
Yeah.
do a haka dance or a Tasmanian devil crazy dance, and it'll let me get out of energy. It'll stop me from being just sedentary in front of my desk. And then I'll be ready to start again, but I won't have to sit through that. I know some people have a different relation to commercials than I do. I just don't like them at all, right? Except maybe during the Super Bowl. So, wherever the source comes from, if you can notice, oh, that's causing me anger, stress, sadness, and I really can't keep going with my day unless I find outward expression for that feeling.
Which leads me somewhat to another way of asking this question. What if what if you found that there were times when even yourself lacked the will to do something and you just don't feel inclined to even think about getting up and doing a squat or anything. Oftentimes people have blockaded their feelings because it's too hard for them. And I think they must be also in this situation where to get up and do that to feel better. I don't think so. Talk about that.
This gets to the nub of the human condition. That sometimes we find ourselves in these places where I'm stuck and I don't even want to do something about it. I want to say that's a human moment. I won't say that I have the 100% solution for that. I will say that I get the sense that I'm noticing it sooner. It doesn't take a half a day anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cutting down the amount of time that I go into that place, and then I recognize, oh, what do I need to do now? And so recognizing that, another factor here, and you touched on it when you talked about Pilates, was that 25-year history you have with it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
imagining now that if you let it go too long, you're going to notice it. Your body is going to tell you, hey, what have I had? How did I miss? I mean, maybe I was on a long journey and I was overseas or something, but I haven't, there's something my body is telling me I haven't done for a while. But if you don't have that history, then there may not be the cues coming from inside your body that says, hey, I need a wake up call here. Let's do Pilates. Let's do squats. Let's do something that will help get me past this place. Does that help?
It has sparked a lot of things in my mind. You're right. When you're doing something regularly, which I was with Pilates, you do become extremely aware of your body and when you need something. In fact, it's almost to the point where you don't even get consciously aware of it. Your body just moves where it needs to move. Uh, in the last year, I actually had to stop doing Pilates because of another condition, um, and and now I am really feeling the desperate need to get back to it because I know that I've healed the other parts, and so now it's time to get back. Uh,
It also is possible to suspend one form of exercise for another,
yes,
particularly if a doctor recommends it.
right.
Now, stepping into a new exercise, you have the excitement of a novelty of like, oh, I've never done this. My body has not done this before.
Yeah.
I will say the one time, it was about 2 or 3 days at a resort island that I did the trapeze. My goodness, my muscles were telling me the next few days,
Yes,
wow, that was a workout, right?
yes,
So the exciting thing, though, is you're doing something that's novel. I had never done trapeze before
yeah.
until a few months ago. Lunges were something that I was not making a regular part of my day, or squats, as I was talking about earlier. Some people prefer lunges to squats. It's just a stepping forward movement instead of a straight down movement.
Ah,
So uh, the novelty of that is going to be a fun thing in the first times you do it. However, the trick is to get past the novelty phase into, can I integrate this into my body's rhythms or expectations so that the next time I get locked into some place of being trapped or physically disconnected from myself, my own body will remind me. Obviously, the body has ways of reminding us, when do I need to take another breath? The body reminds us. Or when do I need sleep and when do I need to wake up? There are ways that our body will remind us. It's as regular as ebb and flow of tides in the ocean. It's connected to the nature. When do I need to eat? These things are tied into how we listen to our bodies. At the same time, some of us have developed abilities to neglect those messages coming from inside ourselves. So it's reawakening the voices that remind us, I need to get up and walk here or do some physical exercise.
it's interesting. I have to put in a big pitch for Pilates. I'm a person who gets very bored with the same activity all the time. It's like, please, enough already. Pilates you never get bored because he has like 1,100 different things.
Yeah.
And good Pilates instructors know how to put them together in different ways. So you're never bored.
Yes, yes, that's great. My way of not being bored with my workout is partly accessing culture. It's watching Netflix while I'm on the treadmill and
Yes.
listening to books on tape when I'm doing things
Yes.
in the resistance training in the room downstairs that I use for this, the yoga and so forth. I do my workout every other day, and I really notice it when I'm on vacation and haven't been able to do that. So my body is saying, how do I get the equivalent of that
Yes.
somewhere else? And what can I do to really make physical my own experience today? Well, sometimes when you're traveling, you're getting a lot of physical exercise anyway, but it is good to continue doing that. I will say also, I'm looking at certain things like I don't think I've taken an escalator in about 6 years. I'm
Ah,
looking for where are the stairs? If there's stairs nearby, I'm going to say, okay, it's maybe 3 floors, but I'm going to still take the stairs instead of the escalator because I'm saying to my body, you can do this, and your body will be thanking you about a minute after this. I have to boast a little bit. I did an entire 1 week cruise with 12, 13, maybe 14 decks to choose from, and I did not use the elevator once.
I'm impressed. Truly.
Yeah, and it was partly because, well, you know what happens on cruises. They're feeding you morning, noon, and night, and I wanted to make sure I'm doing something here to do an end run around the tendency of people to not be physically active in a setting like this. So I'm going to just take against it. And again, those characters step in. I'm accessing my warrior now, and I'm going to say, okay, the important thing is to have a long life and to be physically active. And this is what my warrior is telling me right now.
Ah, I like that. And I like the reminder that we have those archetypes in us that if you're unsure, you just check in. Okay, heart, are we where we need to be? Artists, are we where we need to be? Warrior, etc. Yeah, nice.
That another maybe a side note there is to say, the warrior can send you into things that you maybe it's not strictly as I said earlier, a machismo test of strength, and you want to check in with your heart. Is this physical activity going to be just too much for me right now? And can you access the sovereign inside of you that's discerning enough to say,
Yeah.
we need to listen to the heart here and take a moment of quietness, or maybe this is a time not to do the physical activity. Maybe this is a time to check in other ways.
Mm.
So to be discerning there instead of, I guess, just to be gung ho all the time. I want to say it's really helpful to tap into a specific kind of uh, warrior. I think of as the happy warrior.
Ah,
And if ever I need a reminder of this in the outside world, it's Pete Buttigieg doing interviews on Fox News. He
yeah.
just nails it every time, and he's so wonderfully inspiring. So the happy warrior is a really good thing to be able to tap into. Let's say you're going into a difficult
Mhm.
business meeting and you're feeling fear and frustration and any number of other things. Can you take a deep breath and say, where is my happy warrior now?
Yeah.
The happy warrior is not Pollyanna. It's got that tensile strength, and you got your gut involved, but you're also going to say, okay, I can handle this. That's a baseline archetypal connection that I feel is really useful for my day.
As you're talking about that, I'm recognizing that we, you said in our earlier conversations as we were getting ready for today, was that these are times when we can call upon our core strength as citizens. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that, because I'm already sensing in my mind we all want to be warriors, but maybe that's only part of what we need to be right now.
Yes, I'm remembering also a line from Mary Alice Arthur. The more we show up with joy, the less controllable we will be.
I love that line.
I love that too. I just love to give her credit for that and lovely moments like that. So that's the happy warrior accessing joy in the midst of maybe you're the only person that feels the tapping into joy in the whole room, but it may be infectious, and you're not going to let other people's uh, frustration, anger, fear. That's not going to be your in the driver's seat for you. It's not that you don't feel any fear, but it's a way of accessing something inside yourself that is, I am not going to be imbalanced. I am not going to be thrown off my game by what's coming down the pike or what's right in front of me. This is so critical for right now in our country's history. That sense of being triggered or being taken off balance is just a daily part of our lives here and something that all of us need to be aware of. Where's my shield, my warrior's shield, my warrior's sword? Uh, Another physical exercise for fear is to imagine standing with a warrior stance, taking your invisible sword out and driving your fear to the tip of your sword. It's like I'm feeling my fear. I'm noticing that swirling around in my
You take
body.
it out and you don't kill it. You just drive it out to the end.
That's right. So you're acknowledging the fear. It's here. It's a gift inside my body. It's energy. You could see it as adrenaline. It's a
Mhm.
reminder that you're on an adventure, perhaps. But you take that invisible sword out, you stretch it in front of you, and you imagine driving the fear to the edge or the tip of your sword. So it's still there. You feel it, but now it's like an energy source, and you're going to do whatever it is with your warrior archetype intact, and you're going to plow forward, feel the fear, and do it anyway. You've heard the phrase. At the same time, fear is so all around us, and so many people seem to really want to increase our sense of fear. I look at think of the logic of many headlines these days is fears of this, fears of this. And I think, am I going to take that fear into my body because I fear the future? Well, not so much, because I'm going to limit the amount of fear that I feel inside my body, even though it's coming at me from so many different sources. It's also going to mobilize me because if I just ignore it and go about my way, my day, in a maybe a cartoon version of the happy warrior is just diluted or just going to be happy no matter what. It's like, no, this is a way of mobilizing that feeling and actually doing something with it.
Oh, fantastic. Kelly, this conversation has gone to places that I didn't even imagine. Not just,
Me
I,
too.
I really have enjoyed it enormously. I want to thank you so much for sharing the archetypes with us, your deep understanding of core and relating those to our body. Uh, I wonder if they have just a few closing comments for our audience.
Sure. Thank you so much for the discussion. I've really enjoyed it too, and it came up with surprises for me as well. I want to say I think the current moment in our nation's history really calls upon us to promote balance and core strength. And that begins in the body. It's profoundly connected to our corpuscles and how we show up physically in our bodies in our day. I would like to see that in more regularly tied to the psyche, not just the body, but to the psyche. And that's why I'm adding this sense of an archetype system. So, sovereign, artist, warrior, magician, head, heart, gut, and the ability to coordinate them is a way of taking the notion of core strength and expanding it into a dynamic drama that's happening. And I can ground myself in these characters as advocates to tap into through the course of my day. So I'm hoping that that can be a way to remind yourself physically over the course of a single average day. Here's how to tap into these energy sources. And to face what you need to do in your day takes a little bit of courage, right? To tap into the core. And in a small way, what you're doing is helping out, I think, the body politic, not just your own body, but whatever you can to bring energy better into the world. And thank you so much for the chance to share these ideas today.
Thank you, Kelly. Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself. When I thought about the conversation with Kelly, I began to think about key moments when I work to strengthen what I call my other core. It happened when I was just beginning my business in 1988. I had just resigned my position at the World Bank and was prepared to begin immediately. But as I left the building, I didn't go home. You see, I felt the need to get away from everything and went instead to a retreat house. And that was like 3 hours from my home. And there for 2 days, I had a silent retreat. Now, I'm not a person who talks incessantly, but I love to be in conversation with others. Perhaps you've noticed that if you watch the show. So here I was in a retreat house, people all around. Conversation was not part of the deal. In truth, it took almost a full day before my mind became really quiet. By the end of the retreat, I had such clarity about my upcoming business. It was like doing a week-long retreat with a big team. Amazing what the mind can do when it is allowed to feed its core with silence. I never thought that would happen, but it did. And as I write about this, I am struck now that I have never done this since, and perhaps I shall. What might you do this week that will feed your core? I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation and learned something new. I love interacting with you. Please send me an email at madelyn@madelynblair.com and tell me what you'd like to hear on the show. And get on my mailing list by registering on the contact page of my website, madelynblair.com. I never share my mailing list with anyone, and I send out no more than 1 email a week. And lastly, if you're on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe. This helps me, of course, but it helps others who are looking for similar information. I'm Madelyn Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilient leader.